Hi guys, welcome to your first video on Alex. I am Bonnie McNeely and I teach algebra at Riverside High School if you don't know me. Unfortunately, I will not be one of your teachers this year, but I will be creating all of the class content, so it'll be my voice that you hear every day on your videos. You can always email me to say hi. My address is bmcneely@riversidehighschool.org. I'd love to hear from all of you. Let's first start by talking about materials. Right now, I need you to pause the video, find a writing utensil and a piece of paper. A spiral bound notebook is actually perfect for what you'll need for this course because you're going to be taking quite a few notes and you're going to need a place to go back and look at your work because you can use these notes on all of your quizzes and tests. So it's in your best interest to be writing these down. So if you need to pause this, go ahead and do that now. If getting access to a notebook is going to be a problem, I want you to right now email either me or your teacher and we'll figure out how to get you a notebook. Today we're going to start by learning about functions. So every day you'll have one or two modules that we'll work our way through and there'll be an assessment at the end of each one. The first module that we're going to do today is on functions. We're going to learn how to identify functions from relations, we're going to learn about the vertical line test, and we're going to do domain and range from ordered pairs. So what I'm going to have each day is some screenshots from what you'll see on Alex so that you can know exactly what it is that you need to do. So functions are just a special type of relationship. So what we have here is two relations. They relate the domain, which is the x values, to the range, which is your y values. And it asks us to decide whether each of these relations is a function. Well, on your notes, I want you to make sure that you have written down the title, identifying functions from relations, and underline it so that you know that this is a topic. And then I want you to write your first definition. A function is when each input has exactly one output. All we care about is whether each input has exactly one output. We don't care about the other direction. So what I want to do is look at my domain, and I want to make sure that each n only matches with one thing. I don't actually care what's over here. I could scribble these out and never look at them. N only has one match, Y only has one match, E only has one match, and X only has one match. So I would mark that this is a function. Remember, I don't actually care what's over here. I could scribble these out and never look at them. The only thing I care about is that each input has exactly one output. 7 only matches with one thing. -3 only matches with one thing. 5 only matches with one thing. 2 only matches with one thing. And -4 only matches with one thing. So we would also say that this is a function. If, for example, this 2 was another 7, now I can see that 7 matched with both paper and pencil. We would say that it's not a function, okay, because the domain 7 matches with more than one output. Let's try these by looking at ordered pairs. So same idea. You don't have to write this again because you should already have it written in your notes. We're on the same topic, so you don't need to write that again. But now we want to look at relation 3. I want to decide whether each input has exactly one output. Remember, we're only looking at the inputs. We could scribble these out and never look at them. -6 here has 4 different outputs. It matches with 4 different things, which makes this not a function. But if I look at this one, if I look at relation 4, remember, we don't care what the outputs look like. You can just look at the inputs. Right now, pause the video and decide, is this a function or is this not a function? You should have said that this was a function. E only has one output, Y only has one output, U only has one output, and R only has one output. If there were an additional thing like this that said R, comma, 4, we would say not a function because R matches with 2 different things. All right, new topic. So I want you to write down vertical line test at the top of your next section, underline it. The vertical line test tells us whether a graph is a function. So instead of looking at each individual one of these points like we just did, we would have to look at -1, -1, 0, 1, 1/2, 0, -1/2, 0, and we would have to decide whether this is a function, and that seems like a lot of work. There's a shortcut that we can take. So first of all, let's make sure we know what vertical is. Vertical is an up and down line, so if you need to remind that, remind yourself of that, put it on your paper and write down that this is a vertical line. If I can draw a vertical line through the function at any point and it hits more than one spot on the blue graph, it is not a function. Rule right there, it violates a function. Right here, it violates a function because it crosses through here and here. It crosses through here and here. So for that one, we would say no. This one is a function. There is nowhere where I can draw a vertical line where it hits more than one point on that blue graph. We don't care about horizontal lines, just like we don't care about the outputs, we only care about the inputs. That means we only care about the vertical line test. Same thing here, you want to draw a vertical line through each of these dots. If it goes through more than one dot at once, then your rule is broken. It does not, so we say yes, it's a function. If there were another blue dot like right here, then we would say no. All right, I want you to pause the video and try this one all on your own. You should have said no to this one. If I draw a line here, it hits the blue lines more than once, so we need to say no to that one. If I draw a line here, it's fine. A line here, it's fine. A line here, it's fine. Here, the rule gets violated if you could draw a better vertical line than I can. That is not a function because I can draw a line through those two blue dots, so that violates the rule. This one is also not a function. If I draw a vertical line here, it goes through two spots on the blue curve, so we would say no. So the vertical line test is like a shortcut to us having to list all the infinite points that are on this curve, and it's just a shortcut way of telling whether or not something is a function. So remember, the definition of a function is that each input has exactly one output. We can either look at a table, we can look at ordered pairs, or we can look at the graph, and the vertical line test helps us with that graph. All right, we've briefly mentioned domain and range. I want you to write domain and range at the top of a new section. You don't have to go to a new paper. If you still have plenty of room on your paper, then you can write that out. The domain is just the inputs or the x values. The range is the outputs. Oops, that should say the y values here. I have a typo, so be careful. That should say the y values. I want you to stop for a minute and I want you to write these two definitions down. So if I want to look at the domain and range of G and I want to use set notation, that's telling me to use these little squiggly brackets. You don't have to write them neatly, and on Alex you won't have to write them at all. You'll just push a little button that says to use that. The domain is just your x values. So for the domain, I would say that my x values are 2, 6, 0, and -7. And using set notation is just using those brackets. And then best practice is to reorder that, -7, 0, 2, and 6. The range, guess what? The range is just your y values. So we look at the second piece, the outputs. So it's 7, 6, -2, and 2. And then best practice would be to rewrite that in order from smallest to largest, -2, 2, 6, and 7. I'm not sure whether Alex will count this wrong or right if you don't put this in order, but if you think you have it and it counts it wrong, try putting these in the correct order and see what happens. I want you to pause the video and try this one on your own right now. Welcome back. You should have said that the domain was your x values. They are -3, 5, 9, and 8. And if I go ahead and put those in order, it should be -3 first, then 5, then 8, then 9. The range should have been just your y values. So it's 5, 0, 9, and -4. If I go ahead and put those in order, it's -4, 0, 5, and 9. Sorry about that weird comma there. One thing to note is that you don't have to write a number more than once. If I had another point that was -3, 0, that's a whole new point, but it's not additional information in my domain and range. I would just leave this out. -3 is already listed in the domain, 0 is already listed in the range. I don't need to repeat those. My domain and range would not change. Make sure you have this written down before we move on. All right, you have completed your first module, not too bad. This video will be available in Haiku if you need to rewatch. It'll also be attached to each skill for Module 1 in Alex. I'm sorry, this should say you should now complete Module 1 in Alex. So you're going to log into Alex. You're going to complete Module 1 unless you test it out of it. Then, if you have any questions about a problem in Alex, don't forget that there is an explanation tab and it will give you some information here and then it will give you a similar problem. You can also click on why to get a little bit more information. After you complete all the topics in each module, then you need to take an assessment. In order to take your assessment, you're going to go back to your home screen. You're going to find the circle with the 3 lines on it. You're going to find assignments. And then if you're doing module 1, that will match with quiz 1. If you're doing module 2, that will match with quiz 2, and so on. All right, great job today. Make sure that you log on, complete your practice on Alex, and complete your assessment. Have a great day.